So good morning. Welcome to the European Blockchain Partnership Policy Group Informal Summit. My name is Luca Annunziata. I'm editor-at-large at StartupItalia. A few words about StartupItalia Open Summit. This is the 5th edition of StartupItalia Open Summit. The first one was in 2015. Since then, we always try to have an open environment where all the ecosystem can come and present itself to the whole community of innovation. Today, we are very happy to host this informal meeting of the European Blockchain Partnership because this is the way we intend StartupItalia Open Summit, a place where new technologies, new opportunities for startup and the whole Italian ecosystem industry can present itself to the audience. I'm not the one who is in charge to explain you why it's so important to talk about blockchain today. We have several speakers here. Someone will tell you about the environment, the policy environment in which blockchain will grow in Europe. Someone will tell you something about real usage today of blockchain in a real project into the industry. So, this is my part. I'm not the one. I'm not the one who is going to talk every day. The first that must come here to introduce the day is Marco Bellezza. He's the Counsel for Innovation for Minister of Economic Growth here in Italy, MISE. So please, Marco, the stage is yours. You have your microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. We've been working for 3 months to organize this agenda, which is very full, so I will take just a few minutes to welcome everybody for your presence here. We started this journey with the European Blockchain Partnership on September of last year. Indeed, Minister Luigi Di Maio signed the partnership because Italy was out of the partnership before that. During this 1 hour and a half, we worked very closely with the European Commission. I would like to thank Massimiliano Dragoni, which is here representing the Commission, and would like also to thank the head of the Italian Trade Agency, as well as the General Director, which all the stuff that we are organizing here is thanks to them and their effort to also give an overview on what we are doing at the Ministry of Economic Development, along with the Ministry of Innovation. Indeed, Minister Pisano was in the main stage few minutes ago. Basically, our efforts as our position as Italy at European Blockchain Partnership is mainly focused on proposing a use case that can be helpful for our country. The main use case that we are proposing and we are going to propose is related to the use of blockchain to ensure the traceability of our product, so to basically protect the Made in Italy. And I would say the Made in Europe, since we are sharing with all the other European countries the same problems in terms of counterfeiting of our goods and products. And we deem that the blockchain and DLTs in general could be a very good means to protect our brands and also, in particular, to protect our consumers in related to the product that they eat and that they buy. And at the Ministry of Economic Development, we started several pilot projects, and during those days, you will have an overview on the pilot that we started. We launched and we also finished, which is not usual in the Ministry, the pilot project with the IBM in connection with the protection of Made in Italy, and which is a very interesting pilot. But we also started the pilot project with Sogin. I would like to thank the representative of Sogin that are here in connection with the traceability of nuclear waste, which is another very interesting subject. And I will say that Sogin, that is a state-owned company, that is governed by the Ministry of Economic Development, is the front runner in Europe on this use case, and is proposing the use case also at the international level. So we are very happy to have them here. Today, as I said, the agenda is quite full. We will have the intervention of European Commission that will provide us a sense of the work of the European Blockchain Partnership. Then we will have our friends from Sweden that provided us with a video, and also from the representative of Czech Republic, which is sharing with us the presidency of the European Blockchain Partnership. He's in a traffic jam, but he will arrive.
He's arriving.
He's arriving. He will arrive very soon. I will say, Otto, what we are doing, what we will do in the next year. We will for sure, at the end of a very long process, finalize the Italian strategy on blockchain. At the Ministry of Economic Development, we selected a group of 30 experts, some of them are here, that are discussing around recommendation for the government around the development of blockchain. I would say that as all the groups that are composed by many members with a different approach to the problem, the discussion are really ongoing, and since there is also an ideological part around blockchain, there are a lot of discussion about private, public, Bitcoin and so on, but we will solve this discussion because it's not our goal to have an ideological approach on this project, but our approach is very practical, and we should understand how blockchain can help our policies, and we're working on this also at the international level with the OECD. Last week we hosted a delegation of OECD that is working with the Ministry of Economic Development to evaluate the Italian blockchain ecosystem and to provide policy recommendation to the ministry. And then last point, after another very long process, we are going to start the National Innovation Fund with Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. I have the privilege to be on the board of the National Innovation Fund, and I would say that as a minister, one of the vertical of the National Innovation Fund will be devoted to blockchain and DLT's startups in Italy, because we are seeing an ecosystem which is very vibrant, and so we hope that also the National Innovation Fund will provide new fuel to the ideas that are going on in the country. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. You were very quick. There was a joke in the industry. If the answer is blockchain, the question is wrong. But today we are going to see that there are a lot of opportunities, as Marco just said, for us as an industry, as an economic industry in Italy, with blockchain, of course, with the counterfeit of made in Italy product, but this is not the only thing we are going to explore today. Okay, next we have Massimiliano Dragoni. He's a senior policy officer for the European Commission and one of the people in charge for the European Blockchain Partnership. I'll ask him if you want to come to the stage. Your presentation is ready for you. I'll give you the slider. Here, please.
Where is
the microphone? Oh, no, you can just push the button and the microphone is there.
Perfect. Well, first of all, I'll speak in English, I understand, so bear with me if I make some mistakes. Thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. What I'll do is that I'll give you an overview. Some of you already know this, so please bear with me. I'll go a bit more in detail on some elements that you already probably know about. For those that don't know anything, I'll try to give an overview of what we do in Europe, at least at the European Commission, on what we call the European Blockchain Initiative. So it'll take altogether about 15 minutes, and then I'll probably be here for answering questions if need be. Okay, first of all.
It's not going?
It's the here, no?
No, it's the...
Okay, perfect. Okay, first of all, European Blockchain Initiative. It all started in last year at the Digital Day in 2018, where we presented our European Blockchain Partnership, which meant basically that we asked the 28 member states, together with the European Commission and 2 additional states, Norway and Liechtenstein, to agree on a declaration whereby these states, these member states, committed themselves to adopt and undertake a common policy or common approach to a policy for blockchain, which foresaw the creation of what we call the European Blockchain Support Initiative, as well as a number of user cases, as well as a common approach whereby blockchain would not be split and divided up into 28 different platforms or 28 different approaches, but will be, I'd call it a harmonized or a converging type of approach onto interoperable solutions that could be utilized across the EU, which is one of the main purposes of our initiative. Now, we mentioned here where we actually brought this to the world. We had a main event in Malaga where some of you were present. And as you may recall, what we tried to have is all 5 continents present there, so Asia, the Americas. Well, the only continent probably we missed out is on Australia and Oceania, but I mean, that'll be for next time. And we had Africa, the Middle East, and one thing that came out of this main conference is that there is an interest in blockchain. Sorry, I have a little bit of a sore throat. And above all, there is an interest in making blockchain converge with other technologies in a way that it can be interoperable all across the world, utilizing similar regulation to manage blockchain, especially when it comes down to utilizing tokens and dealing with smart contracts. In other words, we want to introduce a system whereby a smart contract being dealt with here in Europe for outside of Europe would be easily and equally accepted outside of Europe as it would be inside of Europe by utilizing same platforms, same, let's say, algorithms, or at least same type of technologies, or at least interoperable technologies that can dialogue with each other. Excuse me just a second. Okay, so much for the introduction. Now, I'll go into the more... Can I help you? So basically, sorry, I don't have a screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is a little bit what we meant by establishing the global leadership in blockchain, which is our objective as European Union. And that is primarily, a joint political vision, public-private partnership, and by that I mean the creation of both a public space, a public environment, what we call the European Blockchain Partnership, and a private one, which is this association that we have strongly encouraged as European Commission, which is called INADBA, which was also present at the Convergence event in Malaga, where we work together to bring about viable solutions for both the public and the private sector, both verticals. So private sector verticals as well as public service verticals. Then connecting global and European expertise, that is a little bit the idea behind our observatory and forum, to bring about the best that we can find around the world, integrated into our system here in Europe, our, let's say, policy system here in Europe, and making sure that this can be maybe one day the global standard across the world. In other words, we're competing right now with very important big competitors. I won't mention any, but I'll just mention one. I'll just mention China, being very active in the blockchain business. They're actually taking over the ISO 037, which is the subcommittee that deals with blockchain within the ISO standards committee on technologies and on digital technology. And in fact, we have to come about with something European to counter that and be a counter proposition, being that the Chinese proposition is actually quite one country and one system, one fits all type of approach, which we don't, which may not necessarily be interoperable with the systems we're trying to develop, both in Europe and in other parts of the world. Then another part of our strategy, so these are the 3 main pillars we build our strategy on, and we have 2 more pillars that we actually support and provide funding for, which is the investing in EU research, innovation, and startups. We do that through projects that we fund through our Horizon 2020, and from next year, Horizon Europe and Digital Europe program, as well as what we have currently upgoing and running, which is the Startup Europe program and initiatives and projects. In particular, we have one specific project in Startup Europe, which is called B-Hub, which I think is present here today, which is managed by a company in Italy, which is a coordinator. The company is called Innova. And they manage the project for blockchain in particular. The idea is to bring approximately 120 startups from across Europe to familiarize themselves, to expand, to find talents, to find funds, to find interesting fiscal approaches across 6 main ecosystems, ranging from Estonia through Germany to France to Spain to Italy to Romania, and bringing all these startups potentially to grow beyond what they actually are now and become world leaders in their verticals. And then we promote the legal framework. We had a workshop for blockchain and DLT technologies. We had a main seminar a very important seminar on December the 2nd, where we presented a study that we have done on tokenization and smart contracts in Brussels. And one of the issues that came out was the need of having interoperable standards and at the same time a regulation we could be, harmonized and trustworthy across all member states and beyond. In other words, what's important is not so much what happens within one country, where you would have a regulatory framework, like for instance Malta or Slovenia already have, but making sure that these regulatory frameworks for a blockchain technology do apply on cross-border actions and contracts. And that's extremely important because, when we talk about dealing, trust is primarily something you want to have when you do contracts and when you do deals with third countries. And that's very important for blockchain to become a trustworthy legal instrument for that. So we created the European Blockchain Partnership, as I mentioned to you earlier, on the 10th of April 2018. As I said, 28 member states. That's a nice picture we took at the time. And as Marco Bellezza mentioned it earlier, Italy joined in September. September 2018. And since then, Italy has been a very active partner in this partnership, bringing very good proposals and participating to all our initiatives. We actually work on this. Well, I hope you can read this, but this is a little bit what we're planning to do in the timeline for it. So as you can see, we're trying to, we have already spotted 4 use cases. We're working on 2. Well, I'm going to talk to you because if I start reading this, you'll probably get more confused than I am. We're working with policy groups and technical groups. They're both composed by member states experts and member states policy officers. The policy group we currently have is composed by policy officers from the 20 member states, and at that stage we discussed the policy approach we want to have all across the board in the EU on blockchain technology and its utilization both in the public, primarily in the public service, but also with possibility to extend it to the private services to be offered on the same platform. The technical group actually digs into the real core of this technology that needs and these platforms to be developed. So they actually go into discussing the what's, the how, the when, and the whys of what we're going to be presenting as a platform, the use cases that we have at hand. And we have 4 use cases I mentioned to you in a minute. We're currently also developing what we call the European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, which is a main platform. We're investing some 4 million euros in it. As a matter of fact, it's ongoing. It will start now in 2020. And this platform will have the primary purpose to host all these use cases and provide an area, a common space, where all member states can do their, let's say, testing and do the, maybe we can call them regulatory platforms or regulatory sandboxes, where they can test and devise whatever use case they would like to bring forth for the public sector, bringing on board at the same time several member states, so that it's not just done for one member state, but it's something that can be shared and it can actually allow a cross-border activity to be carried on with it. So the next step we are planning to do now in first quarter 2020 is to make public the results of the first 4 use cases that we have. And then in the following framework program that we have at the European Commission, so 2021, 2027, we're going to enlarge our EBSIS, or European Blockchain Service Infrastructure. We're going to pump it up. We're going to invest a number of million euros in it to make it more performing. It will be a gradual investment in it. but we're planning to have a platform, have a support infrastructure that can actually hold a very strong, a very wide and heavy, to a certain extent, number of testing use cases in order to provide then the service to the member states. Become sort of like a central point for testing, for habilitating, and for generating an interoperable solution. Now, to give you an idea, EBSI means, well, you can read it. Let's say the space where use cases and specific focus, I'm not going to read it. So basically, that's what I just told you about EBSI. We're not going to just read things out of the thing, but this is more important. These are the 4 use cases that we currently have ongoing. One is on notarization of documents. As you can understand, that's very important when you want to notarize and have a single token for, let's say, a document which has been notarized. You know, it could be the purchase of something or you name it, and anything that has to do with notarization currently. Then we have the self-sovereign identity, which is very important. It builds on what we already have created in Europe, which is the IDAS, which is, however, centralized in each member state. We would like to decentralize this sort of service and have people bring their own, their own self-sovereign identity with them wherever they go inside the EU and possibly even outside the EU once this, let's say, self-sovereign identity be reckoned across, I wouldn't say the world, but at least in other parts of the world. Then we do diplomas, where we try to bring about the utilization of blockchain to have the decentralization to the person that owns the diploma, and he decides where, what, and when to disclose the information and provide the correct information through a blockchain token to either universities, future employers, or transfer to another university to do a doctorate and other things like that. And we're working on that together with Agit here in Italy, and the MUR through Agit. And then trusted data sharing, which is primarily for what we are mostly concerned with in Europe, which is value-added tax, or VAT, axes, and generally speaking, indirect taxation, so that we know, for instance, then, when a product has paid its dues in a country, it's certified, and it wouldn't happen that it gets double taxation. And we're also planning to bring this to direct taxation once that's been finally approved by the member states as something that can be brought at the European level. So the second thing I mentioned earlier, the other pillar is EU Blockchain and Observatory Forum. So what we do through this is that we have a map of about 700, now it's about 1,000 actually, projects which are going on in Europe, both at the European level, so EU-funded projects or national projects or private projects, where results are brought into the forum and discussed so that people can know about it, share it, participate to it, contribute to it, and so on. The observatory also, apart from the forum, does a very important work, which is that of creating what we call monographies, or let's say deep studies on specific subjects, which have been, for instance, blockchain innovation across Europe, blockchain and GDPR, government service and digital identity, scalability, interoperability, and sustainability. All these are workshops where we went into the details of this. We brought in some academics, so from the universities such as Bocconi or Politecnico, for instance, and we brought in some industries that would then give the private view to this, and we also brought into it civil servants from several member states, including ourselves from the European Commission, and we discussed it. And we do workshops that last more or less a full day, and we try to hammer out the issue, bringing about different points of view, and trying to make these points converge into a viable single solution. Not single in the sense that it has to be imposed, but that, a way to bring things together so that interoperability can actually be guaranteed and common understanding can also take place. So digital identity, legal recognition, supply chain and traceability, convergence of blockchain, IO, artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, digital assets, healthcare, financial services, and so on and so forth. I must say that our observatory has been extremely useful for us to understand a number of issues related to blockchain and the rest of the world, meaning other technologies and verticals in particular, because this is our, how can I call it, our kernel, our engine, our way to bring forth ideas and challenge then these ideas through, on one side, in ABBA with the private sector, and with the public sector through the EBP, so European Blockchain Partnership. These are the funds, these are the areas in which we have funded projects inside the European Union. As a matter of fact, blockchain, although there is no single specific call, or as we call it, funding legal base currently in Horizon 2020, we actually do fund a lot of projects in the area of blockchain through various other funding lines, for instance, both on digital innovation, well, we can see them there, I can't remember them all, but for instance, environment, we do it on climate change, we do it even on biotechnology, all the digital aspects of these verticals. And it turned out that since 2013, more or less, or in other words, since when we started utilizing Bitcoins and blockchain for the financial sector and all that, and ACFIN, of course, and the area of financial sector, financial vertical, we actually funded more than 200 million euros from our budget on specific blockchain projects, and that accounts for about 50 plus projects where blockchain has a relevant component of the project. In other words, where they're leveraging blockchain with other technologies in order to improve the capability to deliver in that specific vertical, which is quite interesting and important. What we're planning to do now in the next framework program is to increase the investment in blockchain, both upstream. We have an initiative called Next Generation of Internet, where blockchain is one of the blocks to build it. It's probably going to be somewhere around, well, it's still being discussed, and with the possible Brexit coming up, the number I give you now, it can be immediately changed the following day, because no one really knows what our budget is going to be from 2021 onwards. But let's say it'll be in the order somewhere in between 200, well, maybe more, 350 to €500 million. Sorry, €500 million for the next generation of internet. Plus, we're going to have other activities within the Digital European program, specifically on blockchain, for another 200 to 300 million euros to build specifically this infrastructure and generate use cases for the public and private sector. There may be more coming about by converging blockchain and other technologies. So we may be talking about an additional €1 billion coming in from other technologies, such as artificial intelligence, such as cybersecurity, in which there'll be a blockchain component. And those will be, it's already been proposed, will be finalized and proposed by hopefully mid this year, according to the financial planning of the European Council. Now, the last point is what we have created as International Association of Trusted Blockchain Application, or INATBA. This initiative was launched also in April this year, so it's quite recent. And started with 105 members, now there's more than 200. And their objective is to generate well, an open and inclusive multi-stakeholders organization created in Europe, but acting worldwide. And the objective is to promote open and transparent inclusive governance models, which is important even for the private sector. Let's remember that in here we have, for instance, the Association of Blockchain Startups, which I believe has the headquarters here in Milan. It has Alastria, which is the Spanish Association of Blockchain Industries, which has another 400 members, as one of the members of INATBA. We have large corporates, like for instance, we have Banco Santander, we have SAP, we have IBM. Okay, well, why not? I mean, after all, we can't stop them simply because they have an American name, because they actually have their headquarters in Europe, in Ireland, and that's still Europe. So we have to, and it's a pleasure to have them with us for as long as they play European. And then interoperability. So the point I was mentioning to you earlier. Let's see whether we can have interoperable platforms that can work for one or more verticals, but in particular can allow, let's say the smart contracts and the tokenization of activities to take place and be understood and well, like, how can I say, utilized and received on both ends of the scale. Sector-specific specifications. Yeah, for instance, we have working groups in INATBA that go into specific sectors, such as energy, such as transport, such as finance, such as supply chain, such as, you name it, climate change, such as, let me think, well, there's about 12 of them. I don't remember all of them by heart. But the idea is to have the private sector discuss these things across different member states, type of companies. We have about, out of these 200 plus members of INATBA, there is about half of them which are startups, or what we may consider startups, or very small SMEs, so small, medium-sized enterprises, which are extremely innovative and fast-growing. And then to contribute to the regulatory dialogue, because on one hand, we do the regulatory dialogue with the public service, so with EBP, but at the same time, we also want to know what the private sector believes in the regulatory approach to be the best way to go forth. And so we try to incentivate, and we do workshops on this, on regulatory dialogue between industry and public authorities at the global level. That's what we did, as a matter of fact, as you see, at the Convergence main initiative that we took over, the Congress we had in Malaga just about a month ago. And it was very interesting, very successful, especially when we had the Japanese confronted by the Brazilians, which have totally different approaches to the regulation of blockchain. And it was very, very constructive, very interesting. But anyway, the next one will probably be in Dubai. I'm breaking the news for you. Most likely, we're going to have two follow-ups to this. One is the Convergence organized by INADBA, most likely in India. It'll be in the fall 2020, so next year. And then in February 2021, we, European Commission, are going to be presenting the results of the Convergence plus our activities in Dubai at the Expo during the Innovation Week in the first week of February 2021. And there we'll make our point in this particular venue, which is going to be, of course, a World Expo, about the European approach to blockchain. We hope by then that we will still have enough power in our guns to make sure that we will not be overrun by the Chinese wave. Okay, and what's next? As Marco Bellezza mentioned earlier, the European Commission, together with the member states, are producing the, let's say, European blockchain strategy. We work on the blockchain strategy, which is one of the, let's say, strategy, one of the policy documents that the European Commission is planning to produce in the first 100 days. Our commissioner, Monsieur Breton, who's a Frenchman, has put innovation, digital innovation, and in particular blockchain, as one of the priorities in his mandate. And he asked us to produce a EU blockchain strategy by early next year, so by, say, March, more or less. And that's going to take on board the various national inputs, amongst which the Italian one, and we'll make sure that we can have both the resourcing and the policy objectives, which resource-wise are going to be embedded into the Digital Europe program, which is a specific program for the deployment of digital technologies into the real world. So in other words, the last mile that goes in between the prototype to the application and its use in a vertical. And that's our program, which is about 10 billion euros for the time being. Then we also launch, and we're launching that next month, as a matter of fact, the AI Blockchain Investment Fund, together with the European Investment Fund. It's an initial pilot of about 100 million euros coming from the European Commission and another 300 million euros coming from the European Investment Fund, where what we do is that with our 100 million euros, we provide what's called the mezzanine funding for the larger fund to take place, where we take the first loss with our money, so that the EIF can invest in very innovative startups working specifically on artificial intelligence and blockchain. It's a pilot because then the follow-up of this will be in the programming 2021-2027 with the Invest EU program that's been prepared and discussed, and we'll see the lights on the 1st of January 2021, which is going to invest in this approximately 1 billion euros, leveraging with a leverage factor of 4, so mobilizing some 5 billion euros across Europe for deep technologies, so the deep techs, amongst which AI and blockchain will be, let's say, the ones that will have the lion's share of the fund, being that these two specific technologies have been identified, not by me, but by the European Council, as foundational technologies. In other words, those technologies which are a literal paradigm step, a jump forth in any sector, really. The next one will probably be the, as you know, the quantum computation, but that we don't know yet when will become a reality, so that'll be the next foundational technology that we probably will have to concentrate on, and we are already investing in it, but it's not really ready yet for deployment. Then, legislative initiative on digital assets, that's another thing we're working on, a piece of legislation which will provide a common approach across Europe to what digital assets are, how you evaluate them, how you can exchange them, and how you can use them. And in particular, what we're planning to do is a communication, most likely. I mean, our commissioner hasn't yet mentioned, I mean, the former commissioner wanted to do a communication, which is a rather light approach. The new commissioner may go for a regulation. If that's a regulation, well, it's going to be a lot more stringent, and member states will most likely have more things to say about it, because regulation, as you know, it's applied uniformly across the European Union with no change to it. We're also investing some 500 million euros in the next programming for skills development, and that we'll be doing together with the academics and the training associations across, so for both vocational training and academic training. In other words, let's create, our idea is to have a skills development for blockchain and all deep techs, but in particular for blockchain, a little bit in the same line as the minister mentioned earlier. We want people, and particularly enterprises and public administrations, to understand and be able to utilize deep techs and blockchain technology in particular, so that they can leverage it, understand it, and utilize it in the best possible way. And the only way to do that is developing skills and generating talents. These talents will also serve to generate new startups, of course. We have a terrible shortage of brain power right now in Europe. We're talking about some 5,000 missing heads that can provide us this sort of technological development capability in Europe, and that's a lot compared to the fact that there is an excess of maybe a couple million heads working on this in some other parts in the world. So we cannot fall behind. We have to invest into high-skilled technology. And then the next use case is launched at the European Blockchain Service Infrastructure. They'll be done in the first quarter 2020. One of these, we don't know yet which ones we're going to be selected or picked by the member states. What normally happens, we have about 10 to 12 proposals so far coming from several member states. Will be done by the usual system of voting, so the ones that get the majority, the larger number of member states that do want to participate in it will be actually funded and brought forth by our service infrastructure. I hope the one that's been proposed by Italy, which has to do with blockchain traceability, particularly for the agri-food industry, will see the light, because it's strategic, not just for Italy, but for most of Europe, where consumers do want to know what they're actually purchasing, where it comes from, what kind of specific contents has, and blockchain can actually provide a good step in this direction. It'll take a while, probably a little bit of resistance by some companies, but it will probably see the light. Okay, well, thank you for your attention. I'm still 1 minute short, but I think I've taken enough of your time, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely brilliant, and I have several questions for you, but I will reserve it for the roundtable after.
Thank you.
So, I apologize, there is a little switch in our agenda. I apologize also to my friends backwards for the read. I ask, please, the President, Carlo Ferro, to come on stage to anticipate his interview, because he has a very packed agenda, so please, I will find your name in the...
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, and my apology to David and Alex for having asked to switch the agenda to catch up on the delay. I'm really glad, first of all, that the Italian Trade Agency has been an active part of this very important event. I'm glad to be here, both for a good reason. I do strongly believe that innovation and internationalization really go together, particularly for a country with a relatively small domestic market. Export is of a paramount importance. Export is driven by product excellence, and product excellence is driven by innovation. A positive loop of the Italian industrial policy towards more innovation, more export, more growth, more resources for research and development, and further innovation is very important, and is, in my view, the only way to bring to growth, to higher employment, and faster inclusion of the younger generation in the economy. And I see year around, not only in this room, at this event, a lot of young people. And believe me, I think that 31% of employment of young generation is not only a very important social matter, is only a little disaster for the enterprises, as innovation at enterprises could not miss the contribution of a full generation. Additionally, innovation and sustainability go together. Jointly promote not only a better society, but a more modern industry, as will make companies able to address the expectation of the next generation of consumers, millennials, and Generation Z. For all these reasons, since January, since I am in charge of the agency, the Italian Trade Agency is the government agency that supports the Italian companies towards internationalization on foreign markets. We have adopted a higher focus towards innovation, towards digital, towards sustainability. This is important on the traditional areas of excellence of Made in Italy, the well-known 3F, where new material and new processes, smarter processes, add up to the general excellences in the design, creativity, handcrafting of our product. But it's even more important to bring outside of Italy the Made in Italy beyond the 3F. And we are currently proposing with the government, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a presence of Italian enterprises as the partner for the digital and smart and sustainable development of many different economies. For this reason, those initiatives started to be an integral part of the agenda for the Italian Trade Agency towards three main directions: the e-commerce, the support of scaling up young enterprises on the international markets, so the startups that are here, and the adoption of the blockchain technologies for product traceability. In e-commerce, it's not the subject of today, I will not take long. We have accelerated the initiative. 600 enterprises, new brands are today on the virtual window of Amazon Marketplace. And we are doing a lot in China on traditional business model with Alibaba and now with Jidong, but also on the new model for the agri-food consumer, the so-called offline to online market with a hem of the Alibaba Group. We are doing more in all this area, but let me concentrate more on startup and more on the blockchain. On startup, today we have a great opportunity together in this room this afternoon. We will celebrate the first round of our global startup program, a program whereby 100 Italian young enterprises had the opportunity to scale up for a 4-month period in accelerators in 6 different countries. And more importantly, we do intend to launch the program for 2020, which wants to be larger, wants to be stronger, and as ourselves in this area, we are a startup, learning from the experience of the prior round with some new initiatives in terms of countries, in terms of model, in terms of relationship with the partnering accelerators and incubators. But I could not spoil what we say this afternoon on the launch of the program on this point. And particularly, you may have noted that in the fair in Italy, where the Italian Trade Agency used to have a stand at the center in the heart of the exposition, we do now show up startups, emerging Italian designer. Joking, I am telling that we are replacing cooking and teas with products, new products, and we are putting the innovation and the startup at the center of the main exhibition event in Italy. And finally, on your subject this morning, the subject of the blockchain. really, I believe blockchain is very important for the traceability of product. And as we said that we want the Italian made in Italy to succeed with unit generation based on a success on sustainability of product, I believe there is no ability of marketing and sustainability without traceability. And there is no real ability of supporting traceability without a trusted data sharing. This is the reason why the blockchain is at the center of our strategy, and in this respect, I want really to congratulate the European Union blockchain partnership for all these very important initiatives. We are very tightly linked to this initiative thanks to the role and involvement that the Ministry of Economic Development is offering us as an operating partner of their activity in this area. Indeed, traceability is key to protect the brand. And you know what is the third most recognized brand in the world? It's the Made in Italy, based on public statistics. So first of all, by acting and putting resources on blockchain, we put on the protection of the Made in Italy. Here priorities are on fashion, on the agri-food, because we want to protect the consumer, but we want also to differentiate the quality of the product against the counterfeiting, certainly, but also the so-called Italian sounding. That's why I very much appreciated in Mr. Dragoni's presentation the focus on the opportunity to select the agri-food chain as a possible pilot for this initiative. We pursue a greater traceability of production processes on the origin of the raw material, I would say from the seed to the shell of a product, also because today gives protection to the brand, but tomorrow will be a unique opportunity of differentiating the offering, of putting the advantage of sustainability as a marketing advantage for the Italian enterprises. In this respect, we are starting and we are preparing the activity for the next year in this area based on 3 categories of services to the enterprises. A consulting service for the Italian exporting companies to select available solutions, to port and to adopt this solution. Training actions to support the adoption of blockchain technology to make awareness with the aim of increasing the use of these technologies by company to develop their human capital and to facilitate a more rapid adoption of these new technological solutions. And finally, we want to work with the system of the Italian trade affairs to encourage and to guide them towards a more extensive adoption of digital technologies at the fair. The number of data is a unique asset that we should leverage on. And then, on the long term, I have a vision, and the vision is that technology will make fair a possible platform for exchange on a 360 days basis, on a virtual way, as that will become a combination of social network and marketplace supported by trusted data exchanges that could support trading. So we are moving on. We are moving on this direction. This is why we are here. I believe with a clear intent for our agency to put the service to enterprises, particularly the SMEs, particularly the young SMEs like startups, at the center of our action, and to use technology as the driver for this action, with a vision of creating a positive loop between internationalization, innovation, in order to generate growth, employment, and inclusion of the young generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can testify that you are present in all the technology fair all over the world I visited, so I can confirm that you are a very vibrant and important presence in all the conference, please. Okay, let's go back to our original agenda. I'm sorry for this switch into the agenda. We are going back to David Sumolainen. He's the advisor of the Swedish Ministry of Infrastructure. He's not here. He sent us a video. He excused himself, but he was not able to travel here. So I asked my partner if he can start the video. It's the video 01.
Buongiorno Italia, this is David Sommerlein calling in with this recorded message from Sweden. Unfortunately, I couldn't be at the StartupItalia conference today, which I'm very sad about, but I think that you will have a great conference. The agenda looks very interesting. I've been asked by Luigi Gaspadar to speak about what's happening in blockchain in Sweden. And I do this at the capacity of being an advisor at the Swedish Ministry of Infrastructure. Blockchain is in my portfolio, and I'm also a representative the Swedish representative in the European Blockchain Partnership. So currently Sweden is a co-chair, as you might know, and we do some close work with Italy, of course, and the Czech Republic, and obviously Commission. When it comes to the European Blockchain Partnership, Sweden is very pro this partnership, but we think that it's a very good idea to try and test and innovate on new technologies cross border. We still see, of course, that there are obstacles to be dealt with, and why not do it cross border in a broad European context? That's something that we invest a lot of effort and time in, and we do have people from Sweden in all of the use case groups and the technical group, of course. When it comes to Sweden on a national level, we do not have a blockchain strategy or a blockchain particular regulations. Even do have some changes in regulations due to blockchain, and that mostly is due to anti-money laundering questions. The reason for this is that we have more of a broader strategy when it comes to data and innovation and new technologies. So we try to integrate the blockchain also in there, not having a particular focus on blockchain. Instead, the agencies which in Sweden do most of the actual work. The ministries is more responsible of policy making and laws and financing. The agencies they themselves, of course, have to see if new technologies, innovation, new ways of doing things could be beneficial to the citizens and to the companies. And if blockchain is part of that, then of course they should go ahead and try and test it, which we have seen examples of course. One of the most famous probably is the Swedish land race case, which started out as a way to digitize a paper-based process, integrating banks and agencies and real estate agents. It was very interesting from a perspective of it was quite a big and long project lasting for almost 3 years, where we could see benefits, but also some of the hindrance when it comes to using new technologies. So that has in itself been very fruitful for us and has led to many new ideas when it comes to using new technologies. So other agencies has used that as a blueprint for what could be done and so what could be changed to make it better. One of the agencies that has an actual implementation using blockchain today is the Swedish Unemployment Agency that uses a blockchain together with insurance companies to help the unemployed to get insurance payouts from the insurance agents. It's quite a slim and small project, but they did it from a perspective of customer service and enabling the unemployed customer to have more control of their documents and digital documents in this case. We also see that a lot of agencies want to and also do test combining technologies, and just this week my ministry, the Ministry of Infrastructure, gave an assignment to the land registry and also the Ministry of the Agency of Digital Government to look at the possibility of using new technologies such as AI and blockchain on automated processes to see if the process could be sped up, but also without losing transparency when it comes to the decision making and automated processes. As we know, automation could be fast and faster, of course, than a manual process. But there is also the risk of losing trust in the process when we can't see what's happening in all the stages. Blockchain might be a good way to deal with that. So that report is going to come out, I think, in September, as it looks like now, and I think that will be very interesting to follow. For the next year, we will continuously be involved in the European Blockchain Partnership, and we're looking forward very much to do that, in particular with Italy as our co-chair. So thank you very much from me and from Göteborg in Sweden. I hope you have a great day and take care. Bye.
So thank you very much, David. He should be following us on our online streaming. He told me he will do so. Our next guest will be Dr. Ivanko. He just arrived from Czech Republic. It was a very rush to arrive here. I hope the car was fine. It was a very beautiful car, they told me. Dr. Ivanko is the Director of Financial Market Supervision, Ministry of Finance of the Czech Republic. Please, this is your control for the presentation. The stage is yours.
Okay, good morning. I'm happy to be here. My name is Alex Ivancho, and I'm from the Czech Republic. That's all you already know, so what I don't know about you. I don't know if you are more interested in how to use blockchain or what are the issues related to blockchain, or I'm here just to speak about what we as Czech Republic think about blockchain. So let me just maybe go to the basics, which is my way, because maybe it would be easier to find out how I get to the blockchain. So previously I used to work in the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and my job was an international lawyer for the ministry. So when we have been looking to some new instruments that are in the market, we have been looking how to facilitate international trade. I think this is something that was mentioned by my previous speakers. And we saw that actually blockchain or distributed ledger technologies might be something that can improve significantly trade financing and gain a lot of savings. Coming from the legal background, I don't know how many of you are lawyers, and I guess I will be maybe boring the others, but bear with me, it's about secure, reliable information on internet. So maybe it's something that you know already. Okay, we can send emails, but now we can have a way how to send it and believe it and trust it. So, for example, just to say it very quickly, under the Czech law, bill of lading is a security. And we also, you know what's bill of lading? I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. If I produce something, I put it in a container, then I send the container from, I don't know, China to Europe. The ownership of the container is related to bill of lading. Unfortunately, under the Czech law, this bill of lading is a security, and the security cannot be electronized in other way than to put it in a special registry under the Czech law, which actually is not very comfortable for international trade. So this is something we are working on. and changing it. I don't know how it is in Italy, but our first step was to look into our legal system and try to find out where are some problems. So this is our reasoning, and then maybe I shall start with multilateral legal framework. More or less, Blockchain Republic is an initiative that we did with private companies, public sector, and some business associations. So we are pushing for these changes in the law. And European Blockchain Partnership is an initiative that was already introduced by my colleague David from Sweden. So if you will have any questions about all this, I can answer. I hopefully can suggest some answers. Okay, so this is very, maybe not easy to see or understand. What I try to show is that there is already some international standards and our legal framework for international trade. So my question is where the blockchain fits in, and it's actually UNCITRAL Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records that was adopted in 2017. And although it was negotiated, let's say, 10 years, as I'm not saying as usual in the United Nations, but we were lucky and there was an option to introduce DLT technology into the final version. So actually this model law would allow a jurisdiction that adopts this law to have standardized rules under which any electronic document will be accepted and the information in it will be deemed valid. So I'm not sure if I got understood right now, but let's say this is already an international standard for the electronic documents, and it was adopted in 2017. So there is not much to invent, it's already here. States just have to adopt it. And the more states will adopt it, the better for international trade, because there will be a legal framework fit for blockchain. Okay, for those of you who are lawyers, I think you know this already, so I will not go into it. Another option is UNIDROIT, seated in Rome, so it's close. And the last one are free trade agreements, because you can already find some standards for electronic documents and contract, meaning smart contracts, in free trade agreements. So, this is what have been done in UNIDROIT. I just go very quickly through it. You can find all the information on their web pages. Let's say that we made our first proposal for blockchain in 2016, so we were looking for some kind of international standard for trade, because that's without international standard, it's nice that you have it in your own legislation, but actually it's not helpful for what you want to do. So one way is to look through UNIDROIT, other is to look through UNCITRAL. These two organizations are already working on the topic. They are dedicated to the legal framework of international trade. So hopefully they will be also coming with some new topics, such as, for example, dispute resolution for smart contracts. Anybody into the topic of smart contracts? Okay, blockchain, we are here. That's fine. You can actually conclude a contract through blockchain, but let's say that there will be a mistake. Either a glitch in the technical scope of the contract, or there might be some misunderstanding in the contract. For example, this container that is going from China to, I don't know, Antwerp port might have a special clause in it saying that whenever GPS in the container will signal that the container arrived to the port, then the payment will be done. Okay. Next clause can say how much it is. So let's see what's the value of the product in the market. So again, the price will be calculated automatically. Third might be quality of the product. There might be a thermometer in the container, which will measure the temperature. If everything was done in a good condition, then the price is the highest. So you already have many means how to specify and conclude the contract by a smart contract. And you might have also specific necessities to look into the dispute resolution of smart contracts. So this is something that maybe this organization will be looking into in the future. Why I'm talking about this? It's about international standardization. So that's what I think is necessary and important. These are some excerpts from the free trade agreements that have been concluded. This one is with Tokyo, so you can already see that almost all the contracts that have been concluded electronically are valid, except Can you read it, because I can't see it, so you have to help me. Okay. So this is a general clause, and as international law will prevail over the national one, both parties already are obliged to respect a contract that was concluded electronically. Next one is from an agreement proposal with Chile for the modern one. You can see in the first paragraph that there are some caveats, such as profession or exercising public authority, courts, and so on. So family law also. These are the type of contracts that should not be, they don't have to be recognized by one of the parties, because they might be subject to, I don't know, notary approval and so on. But all the rest, all other contracts should be accepted, even if they are concluded electronically. So this is the basic right now. Okay, anything to international standards? I will mention at the end that there is also International Standardization Organization Technical Committee 3007 that's work on blockchain. These are technical standards. But okay, let's get to it. Now I'm switching to the, let's say, Blockchain Republic, which is the logo, let's say, movement association that we created in Czech Republic in 2018, if I'm not wrong. We manage, as a group, two documents that have been adopted by the government, which is Digital Czech Republic and Digital Economy and Society. Let's say that the goals are more broad, but at least blockchain as a system, as technology, also features in this document. This is what I already mentioned. When we have been checking the Czech law, we found this issue with the securities. So we are now working on it. First, we had a public consultation as Ministry of Industry and Trade. Second was done by the Ministry of Finance, because they are the owners of the Act on Capital Markets. And right now, we are under the process of creating these amendments that hopefully will be soon done and adopted. So which just shows that each jurisdiction should do its homework. It's up to the, let's say, population to find out where they would like to have blockchain in their life or electronic transaction, and what might be already a step too far. So we try to leave this open, but for the moment we only identified some issues that are blocking future development. So that was our first aim for the change. Okay, and now I'm coming to the, let's say, future topics. So technical standards are right now discussed in ISO. OECD just choose its expert policy advisory board. So there will be a OECD work in blockchain. They are going into supply chains, trade, what else? All the aspects of the policy. So if somebody is interested, this is a place to be, or this is a place to discuss all the ramifications of blockchain. And the last one that was already mentioned by my previous speaker, David, European Blockchain Partnership, for the moment is an initiative which leads to work on technical standards. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is to look into the possible cross-border public usage of blockchain, and there are now 4 cases that are dealt with, and hopefully in February there will be more coming. An example, for example, diplomas, university diplomas is one of them, and I think you have heard them already about them. So that's the end of my presentation, but I have 3 minutes. So if you have questions, I don't know if there is a question answers.
Stay with us. We have a little round table together, so we can ask questions from the public, or I have several questions myself. Dr. Dragoni and Marco, if we can join us on stage for a very short roundtable. I have a question for Dr. Dragoni about the efforts, actually. Please take a seat. Thank you very much. Now we'll go. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. This is the last thing before coffee break, so we are already there. I have a question for Dr. Dragoni about the efforts the European Commission is doing in implementing a policy, an environment to let the blockchain growth. Maybe it's different from what happened when the cloud arrived. Because, you know, when the cloud arrived, companies was going very, very fast, and politicians and European Commission was trying to address the problem as soon as they arise. This time, it seems to me that European Commission, Europe in general, is trying to stay on the driver's seat. Say, okay, this is the environment, this is the policies, this is guidelines. You can grow this way, you can go this way to, you know, create a blockchain product or any kind of application for this kind of technology. Yeah. Oh, we need a. My bad.
Thank you. No problem. Yes, indeed, you're right. To a certain extent, at least. What we have tried to do in European Commission is to take some technology which was not yet mature and we dovetailed into it, and we try to steer it together with the member states, generating the critical mass, not just in terms of policy, but also in terms of market, in order to be a world player. In other words, we don't want to have what happened already with internet, where we did not move fast enough, apart from the cloud, but even before, you know. ICANN was created in the United States. We participated to it, but it was literally driven and drove us towards what the Americans wanted, and it's not by mistake or by chance. That
America's companies in
American
particular.
companies in particular, and still the United States in this case has the predominance all across the world in some aspects of internet. This time we would like for blockchain Europe to be a main player, to be on central stage, and possibly, and we're still betting on this, to bring forth a standard that could be utilized all across the world. So for once we try to move a bit earlier, and we have to thank the, how can I say, not so much the European Commission, we always follow what's been provided to us as a need from the outside, so the market and the stakeholders amongst which member states asked us to move in this direction. We try to do it as fast as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I encourage people from the audience, if you have questions, of course, I will help you go through the question.
Yes, hello. I'm coming from Cyprus. I'm a member of the European Blockchain Partnership. And I have a question to Mr. Dragoni. We actually have approved a national strategy, and we're now at the stage of preparing a regulatory framework. So I have a question on what you mentioned in your presentation. First of all, you mentioned about the seminar that took place last week and how you are talking about smart contracts and utility tokens and whether regulation is going to be prepared. And I wanted to be a bit more clear whether we should be expecting something from the European Commission in 2020, and if that's going to be a communication, as you mentioned at the end of your presentation, or more of a regulation, because that would affect what member states are preparing to do right now.
We have to switch it, sorry, my bad.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. There are some things, okay, I'll try to give you an answer where, as far as I can go. Maybe then, if Marco wants to add something to it. It is still to be discussed and decided. Obviously, whatever we're going to be producing and proposing based on regulatory frameworks or based on a strategy for blockchain across Europe will have to be first checked with and built with member states, as well as other stakeholders, being private or public. Whether we go for a communication or a regulation is still up in the air. If it's a regulation, it will be much more narrow in terms of its application. It'll probably be primarily for smart contracts, and let's say the legal issues which may stem from utilization of tokenization for tokens and smart contracts. If you go for a communication, it will be much broader and will probably be the tool by which we'll be introduced in our strategy. Since it hasn't been decided, I cannot really give a straight answer to that. But let's say that we're working on it, and we'll know about the next 100 days, I mean, the first 100 days of this new European Commission, which just started on the 1st of December. So by March, early March, we should have the answer to your question. And by the end of the year, possibly, whether a communication or a regulation, possibly early 2021. Maybe you want to add something?
Marco, you want to add something?
Yeah, just to, the first thing that is switching to a legal conference, so it's...
We have a lawyer.
But we have a lot of colleagues also in the audience that can help our discussion. I think that the initiative that the new Commission will take on blockchain will be crucial also for member states. As you know, in Italy we introduced the first legal definition of blockchain as well as a first regulation of smart contract. One of the first countries in Europe. We are now implementing this regulation with the Italian Digital Agency. But we think that a word from the Commission and a clear standard and principles as well as European level will be really much appreciated from the member states in order to give uniformity to regulation and also, let's say, to avoid competition in the regulation that we suffered in a way in different sectors like e-commerce. We have a very different regulation from different member states, and this basically creates a competition in the regulation, which is usually detrimental to countries like Italy, where we over-regulate things. And
in Europe in general, maybe in the past.
But we have a particular focus on this, and so it will be very helpful to have a European regulation.
I'll ask for Mr. Ivanko. You told us before that as many states that enter this kind of technology you described, it's better because you can leverage the number. You can leverage the number to impose a standard. Are we there yet? How many people are already on board? How many countries you need? You think it should be a European effort or a worldwide effort? I know it's a very tough question.
Well, just a usual one. Okay, what I would like to say is that if you build an international standard from scratch, it's always the best option. But the question is, if the boat didn't sail already, if there are not already some other jurisdictions that are already adapting or even competing to each other. For example, if you ask Liechtenstein why they have already their law, they will say, well, we are ready to change it when Europe will come with something, but they have it already. There are many other countries, even within Europe, that have their own approach, but this is something that should be seen as a positive effort. But also you have to question what are the aims of it. So if you are talking about blockchain as a public sector tool, then maybe I would say that European initiative is very much welcome, because without any standardization, this cannot be done on European level. So that's, I'm looking forward for it, and I think everybody will be happy to help or to participate in it. Looking into different aspects of usage, such as securities or ICOs, then there might be more issues coming with it, and it wouldn't be that easy, and that would be a little bit more to talk about.
We're going to talk about the ICO after that. Are there any questions from the audience, or I can go through? Okay. I'll go to another one. Just maybe we can try to wrap up the morning, because before the coffee break, if you want to go, Marco, with what did you hear this morning in the first part of our panel? Was it interesting?
No, absolutely not. It wasn't.
Was I good?
No, I would like especially to thank Mr. Ivanko to be here. He had a very long journey, I would say, and it's a pleasure. He's the Czech Republic version of Bellezza, as you can see. I'm his Italian version. So we are very pleased to have you here, and we are work closely with the Czech Republic, especially with the minister, in order to bring common use case at European Blockchain Partnership, because the aim of our participation is the partnership is also to strengthen bilateral relationship. So we are working very closely with the German Federal Ministry of Financial Affairs and Energy, and we are working on building a common use case between Italy and Germany, especially considering our very similar productive system, working on SMEs and so on. And we will be very happy to start our discussion with our Czech Republic friends to start common use case with them. So it's a pleasure to have him here, and it's a pleasure also to share what we are doing with the European Blockchain Partnership, which is something that is for experts, and as government our aim is to bring the discussion that we are carrying out at the European Blockchain Partnership also in the Italian debate on blockchain and the future or our policy on this. But there is a coffee break.
Yeah, I think we should go in coffee break.
So
I'll give you, I think, 15 minutes for coffee break. Thank you very much. We'll see you in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Prego gli ospiti di prendere posto, così possiamo andare a ricominciare. Se ci sentono anche da fuori, se volete riaccomodarvi. Qui l'abbiamo ancora. Un secondo. Uno speaker, dov'è quello di Enel? Dov'è quello di Enel? Ah, è lì, scusa. Ah, è lì. So we are ready. Are we okay? Are we okay? Because you're very dense schedule. Okay, let's go. Are we okay? I'm looking for the streaming for the confirmation that we are okay. Just a moment, excuse me. We are going to have a round table right now. Probably need this to go ahead. So this is the next round table. Are we going yet? No, what's the problem? Okay. Just a minute, because we have. Okay, we can go. Are we online yet? That's perfect. Thank you very much. So, welcome back. We are here at the European Blockchain Partnership Policy Group informal meeting. Next is there is a panel with two guests, with two speakers. Marco Favarato, NL Innovation Manager and for Global Trading, and Flaviano Bruno is the head of Waste Management for Sogin. Well, please come on stage. I welcome you on stage. Have a seat. With you, we are going to discuss some real-world application of our technology, blockchain technology. Before I said that in our industry there's a joke, if the answer is blockchain, the question is wrong, but today it's not real anymore, it's not true anymore. We are seeing a real application for blockchain. And I want to start maybe with Favarato, because we discussed a little bit about Enerchain. Enerchain is a real-world application of blockchain, but not for smart grid or distribution of power through our houses. It's something different. You're working in a different branch of Enel. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I am Marco Favarato, Innovation Manager of Enel Global Trading. What is Enel Global Trading? And of course, you know, Innovation Manager. Enel Global Trading is the interface on wholesale market for Enel Group. So we manage all margin of the group in the forward markets in real time. Of course, these kind of activities we made on a platform, and mainly clearinghouse or other platform, private platform via broker. And of course, which is the best disintermediation system, blockchain. So more than 4 years ago, we started a scouting with the technical partner on blockchain, of course, and was very difficult to find one with background in derivative instruments. And after that, we make a working group with more than 40 European utilities, because, of course, if we want to develop a new market, a new infrastructure, we have to technology, but also participant. So we starting this trip, very long trip, and at the end, very quickly, because we have a lot of questions, I imagine, We have a good proof of concept. So at the end, Enerchain worked. Enel, one of the lead about the project, closed 2 deals, one on power and another on gas during 2 events in Europe. And now the Enerchain project is in standby phase because when we decide to scale up, we find only other 2 participants for a wide reason, large reason, and I'm very glad to explain
blockchain
why.
is very useful for you because you are trying to certificate the origin of the energy. You're able to say, okay, this is the energy I bought from where, from there.
Yeah, Enerchain is not on that because Enerchain is on wholesale market, especially financial. Of course, like Enel, we have also some pilot on guarantees of origin that you are speaking, on guarantees of renewables energy. On this, I think that there are other topics, other issues. One of that is that this experience and my words coming from Enerchain project is that for this kind of project is very essential to bring on board at the beginning the regulator or the other counterparties, because at the end, when we speak about energy, especially physical, thinking about peer-to-peer platform, what's happened if the system operator cannot participate when there is a risk on the grid? And the same on guarantees of origin. So there are a lot of pilot projects, private, on blockchain guarantees of origin. But the problem is that no one of these projects involve the regulator or involve the system operator or so the important other actors from the beginning. So when you have to thinking about scale up phase, you find a problem.
Hey, I'm smiling because next question is for Fabiano Bruno. You have a very different problem. You are a very regulated market, or it's not a market, you're a very regulated environment, and you have to comply a lot. Probably we want to start with video, or we want to start about talking about what is Sogin, what's your work?
Probably it's better to have a short forward on what is Sogin. Okay, because Sogin is a state-owned company that is responsible for the decommissioning of the Italian nuclear installation, and responsible also for the managing of radioactive and non-radioactive waste and material coming from this dismantling, this decommissioning activity. This means that we have to take under control all the processes connected with this activity. And for what is connected with radioactive waste, we have a very strong regulated environment because of the risk included in this kind of material. For this reason, we have to, in Sogin, we had to change in this last year. We have to change the philosophy and approaching how to take under control all the processes, because we are facing a very increasing of the activity connected with waste management. Probably with video.
Maybe we can see the video. It's the video number 4, because it explains a lot about the way you have to dispose of your waste management. So please. Okay, the reason why you convinced me to using this video is because of the number of regulation in the first frame of the video is shown, because you have a very regulated environment, a very complex environment, and also I think you're trying to change the way you intend the whole process you have to, the journey you have since the production of the radioactive materials to the find a place for this kind of material.
Exactly. In this video, you have seen only 3 different kind of processes. We have more than 40 different kind of processes that are grouped in 4 different typology: characterization, pretreatment, treatment, and conditioning. So we have to take under control a large amount of changing in data. So, and each changing in data should be reliable and should be well traced together with the previous one, and allow full traceability also with the treatment and processes that will arrive in the future for these.
Also because there is not something you will end in the next year or the next 2 year, 3 year.
No, but generations.
We are discussing about generation and thousands of years of.
Yeah, it's a demonstration that the blockchain works. We have already this technology and the capability as well. So it's not a problem of technology, but it's a problem of consensus and starting with the right actors, every pilot or every kind of project. So my suggestion coming from experience that we have.
You were saying before that you found only 2 people, 2 other companies trying to work with you on a chain. It's strange.
Yeah, no, it's not very strange, because if you don't have in mind the beginning, especially on the scale-up phase, it's not strange, because a lot of at the end of this project of the pilot project of energy, every company, every utility have in mind different solution and different scopes of blockchain. So one company will either consider a settlement, another settlement, another real-time market, another. In this wide world, it's impossible to find the exact scope of blockchain. Of course, we have to study blockchain project for every.
But in NL, you took a different approach. You decided to create trans-functional and trans-division blockchain and any other kinds of innovation.
Yeah, like innovation, inside that is conversed by all the business line. Every month we would update all members about new opportunities, new idea. So of course, like NL Group with Endesa, we're starting a new project on Iberian market. They launch in the Malaga European blockchain is Confia on late payment, and the moment we find the consensus with the Malaga community and the regulator, like our colleagues here with the example that they show. So we starting with the community, we started with the regulator, and after that we would like to put for the other counterparties, for the other utilities on Iberian market. So I think that this is the right approach.
Something in common is that your companies you're coming from is changing shape during the last years. You are trying to implement more technology in your process. Of course, maybe Enel, it's in a different pace, but because it's a private company, of course. But it's something in common between you. So can you talk a little bit about how both of you have experienced this kind of change? Because both of you have a long story in your own company. So who wants to start?
In the past, we have also a joint story because because Sojin comes from Enel. But you want to start? Okay. Well, to be honest, we are now distributing. We are making a dissemination activity to disseminate new technology among our sites, because we manage 9 different sites, and these sites come from different history, because we have from ENEL, but we have also from the fuel cycle facility, the nuclear installation that we have acquired from ENEA, and in the last year also from the JRC. So we have different facilities, different nuclear installation with different history. And for this reason, the dissemination of the new technology is not so easy for us. We are creating a group in order to create the second phase of implementation of this system that is related to the connection of all the waste management systems with the data management system, in order to create different bridges between the real facility and the database. But this is quite a long process.
It's challenging.
Because, challenging, because we have different systems, different procedures sometimes, and so we need to standardize everything in the next years.
So you probably have the same problem with on a global scale. You have probably several ways of working all along the world, and you have to, in some way, take anyone on the same page to work together to the same objective.
Yeah, it's right. Like innovation, especially in the last 4 years, we are working more than industrial partner than equity funder, because we, like for example Enerchain or Confia or other project, we don't like to make an investment on the startup, but we would like to help the startup on the business. So we prefer to collaborate with the startup and all these new activities like innovation, and create a business plan together, not to invest or not to put equity on this kind of fund.
Well, I think there is space. Last question for both of you. There is space. Is there space for collaboration between public and private? I think there are a lot of opportunities for technology reason to work together. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree, especially with blockchain. For me, it's fundamental that we have to put on board the private and public, because otherwise we cannot move, especially in electricity. And what we are doing is exactly that, working in this way. So 5 years ago, we didn't have this kind of experience. Otherwise, probably we have Enerchain running. But now, after this experience, we exactly moves in this way.
Please.
I have the same understanding of this problem, and I can say that we are collaborating right now with a private company. We are a state-owned company, so something like public, and we are collaborating with private companies in order to develop this system. So it is very, very important for both for software and for hardware system, for everything.
Also to maybe to write together the regulation, as we said earlier. It's probably better to have consensus around on rules.
Yeah, especially when we're speaking about sectors that are very important for the country. Because of course, if we're speaking about no regulator, blockchain can work at this intermediate, of course. But when we have to take in consideration a regulator or system operator, we have to insert in the working group. Otherwise, could be a serious problem on your power availability on the house. And
yeah, we are talking about real power in our houses. Want to add something?
No.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
So, please. Thank you very much. Okay, next, I have to go next, and it's not that easy because I have a lot of things in my hand. The revolution is now, how Italian startups are rocking systems. We have several guests for this panel. I'm afraid not everyone is here. Please get on stage. Cristian Miccoli, co-founder of Bocconi. Marco Bellezza, Council for Innovation of Minister of Economic. And Mauro Del Rio, co-founder of Econium. Want you to join us on stage? I think that we missed David Casalini. He is going around the conference. I'm not sure where he is. He will arrive sometime. And I don't see the president of Agenzia, but don't worry, he will probably arrive. Let's start with our panelists. Please join us on stage. I'll give you a microphone, and I'll give you... Thank you. So, let's start with probably real story about blockchain in usage all over the world. We have two founders of two very successful startups about blockchain, Econium and Conio, two different kind of beasts because you are dealing with different problems connected to blockchain. Who want to start about talking about your company? You want to start you, please?
Okay,
Mr. Miccoli, please.
Yeah. Well, I founded Conio together with Vincenzo Di Nicola.
Last but not least. Okay,
what we want to do.
One other guest, please.
Okay. What we want to do is
Thank you.
To provide services for the core of the blockchain technology, which is the money, now the currency, Bitcoin in our case, and the future stable coins that will arrive on the market. Basically, I personally think that the strength of blockchain is the fact that it allows a new type of currency that you can use freely without asking for permission, and without the full confidence that what you do is perfectly reliable and you can trust transactions that you do. It's the first time that we have a currency that is working directly on the internet. It's also called, from another point of view, the Bitcoin is the internet of money from one point of view. And I personally think that the really disruptive application of blockchain is really the currency. This is why when I decided to fund my company, I focused on cryptocurrencies. What we do is we have a wallet, we have a trading service for private customers. You can see it, you can download our app from the Apple Store. But our ambition is much wider than providing a good services for private customers. Our real ambition is to make the access to Bitcoin easy for everybody and to provide services for banks and other financial institutions that want to give Bitcoins to their customers in a way that is very, very easy to do, is fully compliant, and that will give the bank the confidence that what they do is something that is based on a solid foundation. Our company is based on a very strong custody solution. The custody solution that we developed for Conio is today unique in the world. We have 3 patents on this issue, and what today, as we said before, we are focused on Bitcoin and banks, but we are already working for the next wave of stable coins that is just behind the corner. We are already
something we are going to discuss later because
okay.
you have a very strong foundation. You didn't mention that, but you are coming from the traditional bank institution, so you know what you're talking about when you're talking about this is the next generation of money. This is the next generation of banks.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, I founded in Italy Conto Arancio, ING Direct Italy. In 2007, 2008, I launched as a general manager Che Banca, which is another innovative bank here in Italy. In 2015, I decided to leave the banking sector because I think the real innovation is coming from cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies and stablecoin will really disrupt the banking system as we know it today.
It's something that's already is also Mauro is thinking about cryptocurrency and of course blockchain. You founded a different kind of startups about blockchain, Econium. Can you describe a little bit what is Econium for our audience?
Sure. It was I co-founded it with Fabio Pezzotti, which is like an internet entrepreneur, if you want, like I am. Basically, I share Christian's view about blockchain being disruptive of money, banking, and the likes. And definitely, this is one of the focus of Econium in a way. We believe that there is another potential focus which is basically disruptive the internet in a way. So actually, maybe in a way, while Christian decided to leave banking because of blockchain, basically I do much less on digital startup for the same reason, basically, because I believe that the true innovation is there in blockchain. So what does Econium do? Basically, we are not an operating company. Basically, we are, in a way, just a bit like a kind of accelerator, in a way. So basically, we try to source international projects that are based on blockchain and that have an ambition to be global. So typically, and we participate with them, we try to help them coming to Europe, coming to Italy, based on a network of alliances that we have mainly in the US and in Asia. So yeah, basically our goal in a way is to develop a portfolio of projects with which we collaborate, which is well balanced across two main, if you want, sectors, which is actually finance. So, let's say within cryptocurrencies, basically DeFi, finance, innovative finance, and web, let's say innovative web, innovative digital
We
stuff.
are talking also about browser for browsing the internet.
Right.
A lot of the ideas, something probably you can use every day, and you're not aware that it's, fueled by cryptocurrency, blockchain, and whatever.
As a user, not necessarily, you don't necessarily basically, it's like payments, for example, there are a number of things. We are currently working with approximately 20, a bit more of 20 projects, international, typically actually from the US and Asia. We are partnering with mainly free counterparts, which are basically like either investors or things like that. For example, one example which is not covered by NDA is Pantera Capital, which is a large, is one of the more relevant, we believe, basically investors and operators in this world. We are based in Milan as well.
Okay. Let's go to President Ferro, because I have a question for you. We are talking about initiatives that spread all over the world. We are talking about initiatives that are not national initiatives. This is the way startups should be, thinking about a worldwide effort to become dominant in a market or whatever. And you, as Italian trade agency, are trying to help companies, Italian startups, to go abroad, to scale up, let's say. Which kind of activities does the Italian trade agency to help startups go abroad and become international?
Thank you for the question. As really, we believe that there is no border for innovation, and there is, in my view, no border between internationalization of the business model and the access to the venture capital and to capital for startup. So what we're trying to do is to offer startup as much as possible of opportunities for internationalization. And this declines in three sets of initiatives. The first one is higher presence of Italian startup in the big event on the major value chain. In January 6th, we'll begin the next CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, together with our partner Tilt. This year we are bringing there 60 Italian young companies, and we have doubled the space that ITA buys to host the Italian high-tech there. Second consideration is on how to give visibility to the startup in the Italian major events. And who do you have visited either the shoes fair, the MICAM, or the eyewear one, the Mido here in Milan, or Salone del Mobile, or Salone Nautico in Genoa. Even at an icon like Pitti, we have managed that the space that usually is available for our agency in order to host and accommodate buyers now is used to show products of emerging designers, of new companies, which is a way to put on the hearth of the exhibition young companies that otherwise would have be difficulty to enter the fair. If entering, they will be at the whole ZZ, at the very end of the exhibition. And third, the Global Startup Program, which is a program that we have started this year, bringing about 100 young Italian companies to stage to accelerate and scale up in incubators for 4 months in 6 different countries. And this afternoon here at this event,
this is a spoiler of this afternoon. We are going to discuss a little bit about Global
So what
Program.
we say that we would, for the 2020 edition, and clearly is a lesson learned from this first round, we would intend to expand the number of participants, expand the number of countries towards 10 countries, and change a little bit the model of the relationship with accelerator of incubator with a higher involvement by them in order to bring also in the program those younger companies that could take the higher advantage from the program. And then there is something new, which is about the possibility to set up with this program a sort of dual incubation, at least towards certain areas, for instance, the Silicon Valley.
Okay. I apologize, Marco. Can I switch to our guest, because he is going to leave in a few minutes. I want to ask him about, Christian Miccoli, I want to ask him about what you see in the next future for this kind of technology, blockchain and cryptocurrency you are dealing with. So there are some tendencies. Someone mentioned Libra before. It's something, it's important not because of the technology itself, not because of the momentum they are building in terms of company working together, but in terms of, okay, this is a prototype of something we are going to see in the future.
Well, what I see is that the sort of war for money is just started. Because if you see the announcement, in July 2019, Facebook announced that they are going to launch Libra. Libra is a stable coin that in the project of Facebook should be a basket, based on a basket of normal fiat currencies. But it's just the first announcement that was made this year. The second is that it became clear that China is going to launch a digital currency, an official digital currency, a central bank digital currency, that you can use freely without having to rely on a bank account. Of course, the impact is very strong if you see it from a competitive point of view, because for the first time in history, also the central bank gets competition. This is extremely important because it puts our central bank, the European Central Bank, under pressure. Our central bank must react in a way or in another, because it's very unlikely that we can stop the future trying to forbid totally this new
also because
wave
in other
of
region of the world they can go forward, so we are going to left behind.
Okay, of course we cannot stop innovation. The only possibility is that we lead innovation. Things are moving very fast. The last week we had an official announcement from France. France announced that the Central Bank of France is going to launch in the first quarter of 2020 a stable euro guaranteed by the Bank of France. The interesting thing is that they are developing this new currency with the model of the open innovation. They decided that the central bank alone was not able to do the full project, and therefore they decided to ask the most important French startups to help in the development of the this version of the stable euro. Of course, we are extremely interested in this development because I personally think that for the first time on history, there is competition in the field of money, and the interesting thing is that the end game of the whole thing will be probably decided by consumers. We will have multiple versions of digital euro. We will determine which one will win on the market. I think this is extremely sound for the economic development because I think that also in the area of money, we are close to the end of the era of monopoly and full central bank domination of inflation and so on.
Okay, I don't know if you have to go because I know you have a very tight schedule. So
I can wait 5 minutes.
Okay. Marco, a question for you. Because we are dealing with real startup, real companies, young companies, as President Ferro said. I like a lot this kind of definition, young companies that are dealing with the edge of the technology in terms also of revolution, of innovation, of in some way subverting what we know already as state of the art. What's your point of view? Are you trying to help this kind of company to emerge, or are you trying to help them to be regulated? What's your approach?
Thank you. Let me say thank you to those heroes that are working on blockchain in Italy, because it's very useful to. It could be more efficient to work in other European countries. So we thank you for your efforts, and I think that those time we need basically three actions, and three actions should be taken. First, legal clarity, which is I think a goal that the government should pursue on blockchain and smart contract and all this ecosystem that is working on this technology. As Ministry of Economic Development, we started this journey in simplification decree. We introduced the first legal definition on blockchain, and with the Crescita decree, we, along with the Ministry of Economic Affairs, we worked on a regulatory sandbox. We are now waiting for the implementation decrees that are the core of any regulation in Italy, and the main revolution will be to avoid any implementation decree, which usually takes a couple of years to be implemented. So that will be the real revolution in this country. But I think that, and I know that they're working, and they will be ready in the first month of the next year. They're also euro because they are under a very important scrutiny for the Bank of Italy, instead of other companies that are now gone bankrupt, very traditional banks. But as far as we know, the scrutiny of the Bank of Italy over their company is going very well. And we are happy of that, but we think that as government we should support their effort to work on this technology, also considering the initiative that other European countries are taking on stablecoin and on this issue. The second point that we should pursue as government is education, because very usually, very frequently, all the things around Bitcoin are considering money laundering or illegal or frauds and so on. And so we should work on the narrative which is around this technology. And I think that our national broadcaster has a responsibility on this, and I'm still waiting for a TV show on technology.
The Maestro Manzi of blockchain.
No, but yeah, this is This is a debate that is running for, I think, 10 years that we are talking about this project, and we are still waiting, but we don't lose our hope that they will do something on this. I think that is important. And also this activity of education should start from the ecosystem that is working in Italy on this, because I think that, as Minister Di Maio said when we launched the National Innovation Fund, is our main aim and our main goal should be not to have other younger Italians go abroad to work and to found their startups. And this is one of the main issues that we will face with the National Innovation Fund. And as I said, I hope that, and I work on this, I will work on this, I'm working on this. So it's not just an hope, it's something
we
that,
discuss it every day, basically, so I know you're working on it.
It is something that should be done by the government, by Invitalia Ventures, by Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, is to work on a vertical which is devoted to blockchain technologies and the startups that are working on blockchain technologies. This is why I'm in that board to work on this, and because we need from a side to support the the real startups, and then we should have the national champions on innovation. So
I'm very afraid when you talk about champions, because we have a very...
Not losers. Okay, we need someone that can scale up on a global scale, and
we need a lot of them, not just one. We need a lot of them.
I will be very, very happy to be here next year to say that we at least funded 3 of them,
okay.
Because we start from zero. This is something that we should remind. We start from 0. So for 0 to 3, it's fair enough for one. So this is our the things on which we are working.
I want to ask to Mauro: are we facing a disruption, a revolution? Is something like something we already experienced in the past? We have a discussion on that on July about your idea about what's happening on blockchain and other kind of technology connected to the blockchain on the internet right now.
Yeah, actually, to be frank, it's more a gut feeling more than an idea, actually. And basically, I've been, let's say, at the very beginning of the digital revolution, if you want. I founded my more important professional experience in 1999, so basically at the height of the digital whatever.
The .com.
Exactly, .com boom and whatever. And actually that brought us a lot of innovation. It was clearly a bubble, and but it was a very beneficial one. Actually, there was also literature, literature that every, let's say, big innovation requires a bubble to be really fully deployed. So actually, yeah, basically my rationale for joining Iconium and doing Iconium is basically this, actually, this gut feeling that there are a number of if you want, narrative analogies between those days of the internet and blockchain.
Your sixth sense says you...
Yeah, and also, frankly, also, it's actually my observation that there are a lot of people that actually I admire, that basically that actually I look to for, that I've been looking to for innovation over the last 20 years, that have this kind of, say, orientation. So actually I'm under the impression that basically this has the potential to be a self-fulfilling prophecy for a number of rational reasons that Christian also pointed out before, but also on top of that, there is this, I would say, general feeling in my view. Also, actually, talking about Italy versus the rest of the world, in fact, it's easy to be skeptical, I must say, because actually...
I am one of the skeptical about the blockchain movement in Italy, I must admit.
Yeah, basically, I mean... Actually,
maybe because of the narrative.
Some of the things that actually what we are saying about let's say, Italian people not going abroad and so on and so forth, actually, which are kind of relevant for if you want technology, let's say digital technologies type of things, actually, basically the same issues are there in Silicon Valley. So in Silicon Valley, they think that they are losing out to Asia. No. So basically, the key, let's say,
Don't tell Donald Trump.
of Libra, basically, is the fact that if Libra doesn't, I mean, U.S. government doesn't want Libra, but actually, worse than Libra, they want a Chinese Libra. So they may allow a U.S. Libra because of this alternative. No? So basically, like, if that is true in the US, actually, I mean, being hopeful in a kind of a stable French euro or something is difficult.
This is